Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Caitlin Rose. Today's video, I think I'm going to do definitely a reading vlog again because I am very much behind on my reading goal for this year. So I definitely want to catch up to that as quickly as possible, even if I don't end up like getting to the full goal by the end of the year. I want to be as close as I possibly can. So I just finished Mile High, and that was in my last video, so go check that out if you want to see the rating and review I gave that, or click in the link in my description down below for my Goodreads, where I like essentially do all of the reviews but written down. The book I think I'm going to start this video with might be, there's three options. One is A Court of Thorns and Roses, because it's been on my bookshelf for a few months now and I definitely want to read it to see if like my personal taste agrees with the hype that's around the book as well as the series itself. The other options are some type of thriller-esque type book, like thriller mystery type book, because obviously Halloween is coming up and I just want to get into that mood, and I feel like it's the perfect time of year to read thrillers. But the last option would be to read the next book that continues on from Mile High. But I don't know whether I'm like in the mood necessarily to read a romance. I feel like because it's that close to like Halloween and I want to watch horror movies and stuff, I want to read a type of book that matches that sort of vibe of like horror, mystery, thriller. So I think that's probably what I'll go with, but I'm going to look into which book, because as far as thrillers and stuff go, I don't actually have that many on my physical TBR on my bookshelf, so I'll have a look on TikTok as well as Goodreads, and I'll probably watch some of my favourite book YouTubers videos to see if they have any recommendations that like fit my taste. A little reading update for you. I started a book called Never Lie, currently on chapter 8. It's a thriller book. From what I can like gather from the first few chapters I've read, is that it is about this old writer's house that may or may not be haunted. We're going back and forth between different perspectives as well as different timelines, but it's working really well. I'm really enjoying it. I can already tell I'm really going to like this book just from like being not even 100 pages in, which is a very good sign, unless it goes downhill, which I don't think it will, and I'm really hoping it doesn't.
Hello, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 1
next morning. My hair looks a mess, I know. Quite honestly, so does my kitchen at the minute, so I'm going to clean that up. But I wanted to make some bread, just because I feel like the bread I get at the supermarket I don't really enjoy. So I thought I'd try it out, try and make some bread. So it's 3 cups of bread flour, but I might do 2 bread flour and then 2 wholemeal bread flour, because we have both. I'm not sure, we'll figure it out. I don't know if you guys can hear, but it is quite windy outside. It's still like it's sunny, more on like the back side of my house, more than the front side, which is where I am. It's like a little bit overcast, but I also have like the roof that kind of extends more than just where my room finishes, so that could also have something to do with it. A little update, I just ate lunch. I woke up a bit later today because I know that I'm going to have a late night with F1 free practices at 7:30 here in Spain, but then qualifying and stuff I think finishes like midnight, assuming there's like no yellow flags, red flags, safety cars, any like breaks, and plus with commercials and the breaks in between the sessions, it actually finishes later than an hour, which is when it's meant to. So I know that I'm going to have a late night, and then Michigan play Michigan State for the NCAA match, which is college football, specifically American football. I feel like my family watches a lot more American sports than we do like European and British, so we just call American football football, and when we refer to normal football we just call it soccer, just so that it's easier to distinguish both. So I of course have a Michigan jumper on, yellow and blue, for Michigan University, not Michigan State. My other Michigan jumper is in the wash. I feel like I have about like a handful of jumpers in my wardrobe that are probably my top 5 jumpers, and when I put them on I will stay in them for like 2-3 days because I just love the jumper so much. Like it's fleecy, but it's not too fleecy to the point where I'm like sweating. Now, yeah, so got up later today, and I just had lunch. I made myself like a little snack board. I go into pretty much hyperfixations with food. Like I can have yogurt bowls and I will have them for like weeks at a time, or like eggs. Like I went through a phase of loving scrambled egg whites for lunch, and I'd have that for like a week straight, and at the minute it's snack boards just because it's quick and easy, and like with the change of weather I'm not really in the mood for one specific thing, so it just gives me a little option to have a bit of everything. Moving on to a book update. If you guys saw me last night, you could see that a certain plot twist towards the end of this book had me shocked, a little bit shook. But I had to, as much as I wanted to finish it last night, I had to put the book down because it got to the point where I was tired and the words were kind of turning to mush on the pages. So I'm 92% through this book. I have 8% left, which is about 10 minutes of reading, and I think the big plot twist has happened, which is the one that I was like shocked with last night, but I don't know if there's going to be another one towards the end of the book. I will say I thought something very similar to the plot twist was going to happen, but for a different character in the book, not the one that it actually ended up being, which made it even more of a plot twist for me. So I'm not sure how this book is going to finish. I do have an idea roughly on where the rating is going to sit. I would not say it's a 5-star. As much as I love this book and I'm really enjoying it, there's just a few elements where it's not one that I'll like obsess with and be thinking about continuously, which is what I give 5 stars to, because I feel like that's what they deserve. But I also might readjust my rating system, because I've never given a book 6 stars, because for me the 6 stars is almost like the 5 star for me. I feel like I'm just very particular with my ratings of like a 5 star means that I will continuously think about this book or this series of a book or whatever, whereas a 4 star is really enjoyed it, would recommend it to other people, but it's not going to be stuck in my head for ages. And I think this is kind of around that mark, maybe a bit more than a 4, but yeah, I just need to finish the last 10 minutes of reading and then I will do my rating and review and pick out the next book. I also might turn this into like a weekend reading vlog thing, because I'm going to be up really late tonight and I don't know if I will fall asleep, because the Michigan match starts at like 1 or half 1 in the morning here in Spain, and they last like 2-3 hours, which would be like 3 or 4 in the morning. So I don't know if I'm actually going to get sleep tonight, I'll be honest. So it might be like an overnight reading type thing. So I'm not 100% sure what to call this. I can't call it like a 24-hour reading challenge thing, because it's not, because I'm not timing myself, but it's along those concepts. But I do need to edit one of my videos, but it's taking ages to upload the video clips from my phone to my Google Drive so I can download it onto my laptop. So in the meantime, I will read.
Axel, as we say, and a great shot there from his helmet cam, wasn't it? And just to remind you of how far
I just finished Never Lie. This book, I only had like 10% of the book left, and I genuinely thought the plot twist that happened that I talked about earlier was like it. I was wrong. I'm now wishing I filmed my reaction to these last few chapters, because it was a lot of gasping and just jaw-dropping like moments in the book. And so yeah, I will definitely be looking into reading more stories by this author. My final rating for Never Lie is a 4.5 stars, just because, like I said, for it to get to the 5 star for me is not easy to do, because it has to be something that I will think about for a long time, like a long time. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was a 5 star for me. I still think about that book now, and I want to find something similar. So on the scale of that to other books I've read that have been like lower ratings, it's not at the 5 star mark, so I will be giving it a 4.5 stars. The next book I decided to go with is actually a physical book. It's one that has been on my shelf for well over a year at this point, I think, which is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. I've not started it, I've just marked the first chapter with a bookmark I made myself, which does say I fall in love with fictional men, because it's just true. It just is. And I will read you the back of the book. With the books on my Kindle I tend to go in like completely blind, but with my physical books I have, because I don't have a lot of books in my physical copies or as physical copies. I want to make sure that it's a book that I will be 100% interested in, just because obviously books are quite expensive now, which is why I do most of my reading on my Kindle. But the back says, "All Eden wants is to rewind the clock. To live that day again, she would do everything differently, not laugh at his jokes or ignore the way he was looking at her that night. And she would definitely lock her bedroom door. But Eden can't turn back time, so she buries the truth along with the girl she used to be. She pretends she doesn't need friends, doesn't need love, doesn't need justice. But as her world unravels, one thing becomes clear. The only person who can save Eden is Eden. Now, this book is, I think, like nearly 350-ish pages. So I'm hoping to get as far into this book as possible, if not finish it completely, by the end of this video. Like I said, late night tonight. It's literally 1 in the morning right now. I have F1 on the TV. Qualifying just finished, and I have like 30 minutes before my football starts. So I'm gonna get some reading done and I'll give you an update probably at least when I'm 100 pages in, because that's like my mark point of when I can gather an opinion on the actual book, like the writing style, the character developments, kind of the plot that's going on, depending on the book. Some books that I've read have actually taken longer than 100, but the ratio and like typical range point for me to kind of get how I might feel about this book and the rating I think I am going to give it, my prediction of it, is roughly around like 100 to 150 pages into the book. So yeah, I'm going to start with this one just to keep me awake. Also, it does sound slightly gut-wrenching and sad by the blurb on the back, but you know, I thought it's gloomy outside, it's a day I might not be getting a lot of sleep, it was raining earlier, it might rain tomorrow, so it just kind of fits the mood, I feel like. And as I said at the beginning of this video, or I'm pretty sure I said at the beginning of this video because I can't really remember what I said in the first clip, I am a big mood reader. I love to mood read, which is why doing challenges of like reading a certain genre for an entire week or whatever that so many booktubers do, it's not something I can see myself doing without like getting myself into a book slump, because I need that variety. Because when I finish like a really sad book, I want to go to like a romance or a mystery or something completely different from what I am predicting to be a sad book, so that it like swaps up writing styles and stuff, because I feel like if I read the same thing over and over again, I can get a little bit bored and put into a slump, which is why there's some series that I've read like one book after the other, but it's not often. I always feel like it's good to have a refresh, but that doesn't mean I don't like the series and I don't like the authors, because there's like the Crowns of Nyxia or Nyaxia series. I read those books. I read the first book, then I read a book in between, and then I read the second, and both of them were like, one was a 5-star and I think one was a 4.5 star, or like a 4-star book. So I definitely still enjoyed them, it's just I needed like a little refresh. Like, you know, when you're doing a taster for meals or whatever and you have like a drink in between each course to refresh the palate, that's what I need in between books in a series. Like, I just can't read them one after the other because they do follow a similar thing. The only one I might be able to do that with is kind of romance, because I just feel like I will never get bored of good romance books. If there's been like good books in a series that's a romance based series, and then there's one book that's like a little bit iffy in there, like it goes from like 4 stars to like 3 to 2.5, then that might put me in a book slump. But for a whole, romance is just... Page 55, and got a book video on. I'm currently, I think like 70 or something pages into The Way I Used to Be. Definitely big, massive trigger warnings, because like within the first few pages there was already a lot happening. Right now it's giving me kind of like 13 Reasons Why type vibes, and I've really enjoyed 13 Reasons Why as the series, so I have a feeling I'm gonna like this book. 70 pages in, very, very easy to read. Slightly confusing because there's not necessarily chapters as such, it's more parts, but even in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which was split up into parts, there were still chapters within those parts. So it's strange not having like chapters come up and it just be like continuous things, but you can tell there's kind of sectioned off chapters without calling them chapters. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, very much enjoying it. I have to go, it's the next morning if you guys couldn't tell. But I have to go to the doctor's with my nan in like 20-25 minutes, so I'm gonna see how much I can read before that. It's raining outside. I changed my bedding. I put my actual like duvet in the duvet cover because it's getting colder now in the mornings. My feet were literally icicles this morning. But a little book update for you guys. I'm not on, I haven't started it yet, but I just got to part 3, which is roughly around halfway through the book. Still really loving this book. The character of Eden is so complex and also relatable to an extent. Of if you've been through something rough in your life and you're summing that up to just trying to change physically rather than like trying to change your inner self and better yourself and process it, it's so relatable. Like, I don't think I've read a character that has been so perfectly described and is so perfectly representative of people who struggle with mental health disorders based on things that have happened that have like given them trauma. The way that she's described and the things that she's going through and how she's actually like not developing, which sounds really weird because I love character development, but it's that never-ending cycle of feeling like you're developing but knowing you're actually not, which is not an easy thing to write about, and Amber Smith just does it so flawlessly. I have very, very, very good feelings and indications about the rating of what this book is going to be thus far. I'm, like I said, halfway through, but I don't think it can go wrong from here. I just don't. from my mum's side came over for lunch today, and while they were watching something on TV, I'd already seen it. It was an episode of the series that I'd already seen. I decided to finish what I had left of The Way I Used to Be. I don't even know where to start because this book was just so perfect. Like, I think I'm going to repeat some of the points I said while I was reading it. Like, number one, this is just the most authentic, realistic representation of someone's trauma response of dealing with something while also not dealing with it at the same time. Like, there's so many points in this book after the traumatic thing happened to Eden, who's our main character, that she refers to that version of herself, like when it happened and before it happened, in the third person, like it's a completely different person. She doesn't see herself as that person anymore, even though on the inside she most definitely is, and you can tell that. Their anger and like the defensiveness of her behaviour is just, it's so realistic and clear, and I think it just is a really good representation of what it is to deal with your mental health when it's in a bad place and it just spirals down and down and down because you're not dealing with something. Amber Smith's writing is incredible, impeccable. Like, I have no faults with this book at all. I felt really conflicted about it because it was so good that I never wanted to like put it down, but when I did end up putting it down to like sleep and stuff, I was so hesitant to pick it back up because I knew eventually that it was gonna end and I was gonna finish the book, and I just wanted to prevent that as much as possible because I love this book so much. The last few chapters of this definitely had me teary-eyed a little bit. I probably would have cried if I wasn't sat in the lounge with my family around, because it seems slightly dramatic as I'm reading a book. It's probably not. But the last few chapters just felt like a big warm hug, and I imagine that feels so like comforting and so much validation to people who have been through the same experience or a similar experience to our main character Eden. It finished it off at a really, really, really nice place, and I am so eager to buy the second book because I feel like this is the worst of the worst. Like, there's a quote from the last chapter that says something along the lines of like, it's definitely going to get worse before it starts to get better, or you're going to feel worse before you start to feel better. And in relation to that quote, I feel like this book is definitely the feeling the worst of it, and then the second one will probably follow on from she's actually healing from what happened, which is the reason I really want to read it. Not only because this book was everything and is everything and will probably be everything, and I already said I want to A, reread this, but B, I want to annotate it with post-it notes, which again, I don't know why I didn't pick my post-it notes to do it the first time I picked this book up. But yeah. Also, a really cool thing that happened, I posted on my story when I was about halfway through the book, just after I did my halfway update for this video, and Amber Smith herself reacted and responded to my story, which I slightly freaked out about, And so, yeah, I've lost my train of thought. The rating, I believe. Probably, yeah. The rating for this book, like I said, I literally cannot fault this book for anything. Literally anything. So, it's a 5-star. And I felt like I knew that it was going to be a 5-star, and if you've watched any of my previous videos or based on the things I've said about other 5-star books that I've personally think are 5-star books, you would know and would have predicted along with me that this is going to be a 5-star book for me. It just is. And now I feel like I want to read, or try to read at least one more book this week, just to really catch up on my reading goal, because I am quite far behind on it. I had a quick scan over of my physical books I have over here, of the ones I've not read, and there's not really any there that I'm vibing with, so I think I might read the second book in the Windy City series, because I recently read Mile High, and that was a 4, I think it was a 4.5 star I gave it in the end, or a 4-star, it was around that mark. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to pick up Windy City series second book. I don't know if it continues on from the first book, or whether each of them are kind of own individual books and stories with characters, or whether the characters follow through type thing. But I'm very excited to find out. So I'm 20% through The Right Move, which is the second book in the Windy City series. The first book is Mile High, which is based off of our two main characters, which is Xanders, who is a professional hockey player in the NHL, and Stevie, who is a flight attendant that is working on the team's airlines through the entire season. Romance sparks, and within that book we are introduced to a few other characters, but two other characters which have been converted into the main characters of this book, which is Ryan, who is Stevie's brother, who plays in the NBA in Chicago, and he's possibly the top professional basketball player in the NBA, within this series. And Indy, who is one of the co-workers, then becomes friend of Stevie. Ryan and Stevie are siblings, Ryan being the older brother. This book picks up, I want to say 10 months to a year after the first book. And it's very similar to the first book in obviously the writing style, very quick and easy to read, a lot of very cute quotes. A theme that I seem to have picked up on throughout this book series thus far, whether it will continue later on or not, I don't know, is it's very much romance that stems from an enemies to lovers perspective. Xanders and Stevie didn't get along in book 1, and Indy and Ryan are on rocky ground from the first book. One thing that this book does include that the first one did not is a fake dating trope. So where I'm at right now in the book, spoilers if I would have put up spoilers on the screen and a time stamp, because I know that not everyone wants spoilers. But where I am right now is they've come to an agreement because Indy needs a date to a friend's wedding where her ex-boyfriend of 6 years will also be attending, and I think he's also in the actual wedding ceremony, her being one of the bridesmaids. And Ryan told his boss that he had a girlfriend to kind of protect his image within the team. And so they came to a mutual agreement to go to this gala event thing that Ryan had, and in return he'd go as her boyfriend to the wedding. The event is nearly finished where I am right now in the book, so I assume things will progress from there. Just finished The Right Move a couple hours ago because I had dinner after I finished. I don't even know where to start with this book. Like, number one, pacing was incredible. Literally, I can't fault Liz for her writing. Like, I just can't fault it anywhere. Enemies to lovers trope, I used to not like it, but I think that's just because I was reading books or authors or certain type of writings that just didn't hit right for me. But enemies to lovers in this book, I ate it up. And alongside that, the fake dating trope, like I have publicly said multiple times, fake dating to me, often the way that I've seen it written in books before, is really cringy and awkward and like very like icky for me to read. Like, it's just not enjoyable. I've DNF'd a few books where fake dating has been a trope because of the way that it just does not work. This book worked. The title of this book is perfect. The Right Move. Literally every single word, trope, choice of writing in this book was the right move. I love the fact that all of the characters and elements of the first book in the Windy City series appear or are mentioned at some point in this book, which is the second one in the series. But this book had me, if you guys couldn't tell from reactions of me reading it, had me on a roller coaster of emotions. I felt sad, I felt happy, I was kicking and giggling literally at multiple times in this book. I was gasping at a couple things that got brought up. The amount of things I highlighted in this book, let me tell you, a lot. I need to find me a Ryan Shea. Like, I need to find me a Ryan Shea. Not because I want to do fake dating, because I'm not doing that. But this man's personality towards the end of the book, when he, like, is who he is. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Like I said, fake dating, I don't like it. I don't want it, I don't like it. It makes me awkward and cringy. But this I loved. So because of that, and like Mile High, I read it, I think I gave it like a 4.25 or a 4.5 stars, because that book was great, and I was genuinely convinced that usually the highest rated book in a series when I start reading it is the first book, because it sets the tone for what the rest of the series is going to be like. Usually if the first book is like a 4.5 star, the other ones are 4.5 to like 3.5, depending on each book and what they follow. This one, first book 4.5 star, this book 5 star. It's a 5 star. I don't do that often. It's happening more frequently. But there's no other rating to give this book except a 5 star. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video, and if you haven't already, go check out some of my previous videos where the books of these book series and things, of the first ones or the books that came before them, are mentioned, as well as other books and ratings and reviews. As per usual, all of my social media accounts are linked down below, along with a link to my Goodreads, so you can follow along with my reading progress. Bye!